Happy Saturday evening, everybody. And it's wonderful that all of you are here. And I know there's going to be some more of you filing in a little bit. And then there's going to be some of you who are going to watch it on the replay. And it doesn't matter to me which it is, except for the fact I really like it when you guys are in chat. I love it. I love it when my chat's blowing up. And so I'm going to encourage everybody to start watching my shows live so you can participate. Tonight, I am so excited tonight. My guest tonight, I've seen his documentaries, and then I saw a couple of interviews, and I was like, I want to talk to this guy. And I thought for sure, guys, I'm telling you right now, I thought for sure he would not even have the time of day. And yet his response to me, I reached out to him on Facebook and I was like, hey, I would love to have you on my show. Would you consider it? You know, he came back with like an automatic yes, of course. And this is what I do. And I love to do it. And I love to do podcasts and things like that. And I was just like, wow, so approachable and so humble and a truth seeker, right? And everybody that comes to this channel and every single show I do, it's all about seeking the truth. And what better person to join us tonight than Mr. Jay, and I promise I'm going to get it correct, Bachochin. So welcome, Jay Bachochin, to the show.
Wow, that's awesome. You got it right. It's a tough name to let it roll, you know.
You know, thank you so much for coming. I'm telling you, I was so amazed how approachable you were. And I thank you for that, because there's people sometimes that I reach out to that just, you know, it's like they don't want to tell you no, but they kind of give you a runaround and make you think that maybe they're going to come on your show. And then, you know, you're chasing and chasing. And I just thank you so much for just saying like, yes.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. I think actually the word I used was absolutely.
Yeah, you did.
An exclamation point. Well, yeah, you got to remain that. That's one of my life's gifts. I don't even want to say gifts, but it's you know, you got to remain humble, because you know, when I first started doing this, I never knew it would turn into what this is now. And I mean, even for my first that first documentary, I never planned that. I just document everything. And you know, at one point I was going to just put a few clips of evidence together to go to a trade show, because I didn't have anything to sell, and people just wanted, either I wanted to vendor or whatnot. And then that turned into the documentary, which turned into the second. But you know, at the same time, you know, I always say at the end of the day, I'm just Jay. That's it. And I love to talk about this, so I could talk all night long until people are sick of hearing me. So I love it, absolutely, I wanted to come on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome.
We have a lot to cover tonight. I mean, you know, the evolution between the two documentaries was amazing to watch, because I identified with that journey. And that's one of the things that we absolutely, my son and I as research partners, we've just gone, you know, we started the journey over here thinking this, and then through our own experiences, we are so someplace else now. And it's only been serious research for us, not even a year. And it takes you on a journey. It's crazy.
Right. With every question you have, you get a million more answers, and it just never ends. But I think that's the best part of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
You know, people are just saying, it's like, you know, Jay, what happens if you ever find Bigfoot? Are you just going to quit? And I'm like, no, I'm going to start looking for unicorns.
Yeah.
But I kind of got that look from my wife when she said, no. It's already hard enough to say Bigfoot, because it's the butt end of every joke. I joked about it my whole life. I would investigate ghosts and UFOs. You know, UFOs is my first love. But Bigfoot, you know, again, I just thought that was just a legend, just something like unicorns. And actually it's making me think, more outside the box than ever, that if Bigfoot exists, what else exists that we don't know about, that we just,
Yes.
joke about?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I've said on some of my other podcasts with other guests, and I've said, I don't even know if I even draw the line anymore. Like, okay, goblins and chupacabras, and
They're all real.
yeah,
you
what
know,
I mean.
I wouldn't be surprised if Godzilla, King Kong, all these things that
Yeah,
we're watching on movies are in the hollow earth somewhere. It's
yeah,
but
yeah.
you have to draw the, I don't want to say draw the line, but I kind of just focus on this right
Narrow the
now.
corridor down a little bit, right?
Well, you have to. I mean, when I first
Yeah,
started to do this, I thought I was just chasing a flesh and blood primate that we haven't caught up with, but
yeah,
the weirdness in the kettle, which
yeah.
is going on in a lot of the woods,
Hmm.
I'd like to know these connections, if there are any. I don't have those
Hmm.
answers, but that's what hunting the truth is all about.
Well, do you know if they're in Kettle Moraine? Are there ley lines that maybe go through there, or there's quartz in the ground? That's what was making me. I was having those kind of questions when I was watching, the documentaries, because so much of the other phenomena,
Mm-hmm.
have seemed to be concentrated in those kinds of areas.
Yeah,
So
well, I
is
mean, it's definitely the area that I'm researching was at one point Ho Chunk territory. You
and
know, um,
that's is that native? They're Native American.
right, and
Mm,
so you wonder what we're actually walking on.
yeah, yeah.
Glaciers that receded, that created the Great Lakes, that
Hmm.
created these kettles. They actually look like kettles, and the moraine is more of a meadow. So you kind of have the kettle, the deep kettles, and the meadows, but also deep dense woods as well. And
Hmm.
it's I mean, it's nature's beauty, and
So
it's
can
just
you,
beautiful.
yeah, can you explain for everybody, like the kettle, like what the kettle is, and what that kind of topographically, what that description of that is?
Yeah. Well, the Kettle Moraine is 55,000 square acres of woods, forest that actually stretch about 100 miles throughout Wisconsin, the state. So if you look on a map, really, like if you do the Google Earth or maps and you just
Hmm.
pan out, you're
Hmm.
like, that's it. That's all there is. Now, this is what I call the Green Mile, because the Kettle Moraine actually stretches up north, from the south end of Wisconsin through almost the central. Then you start getting the Great North Woods, which also goes up into like Eagle River, Rhinelander, all those, and then of course
Hmm.
Michigan. So when you look on a map, I almost think of it as a green mile of a way
Hmm.
of something to travel unseen. Again, if you're going back to the kettle and you look from a bird's eye view, it doesn't look that big, but it's immense. I mean, it's
Hmm.
you people get lost in there. How about that? And I have I listen to like a scanner that you hear about hikers getting lost out there. They're found, but you
Mm.
can easily get so turned around and lost in all that. And especially at night. I mean, during the day is one thing. You get off those paths, you don't know where you're at, you could seriously get yourself lost. So, safety tip, always know your surroundings. Make sure you
Mhm.
know those
Yes.
paths that you're going to be taking. That's what I always recommend, because people always ask me, well, do you go elsewhere to look for Bigfoot? And my answer to that is I don't consider myself a squatcher or a Bigfoot hunter,
Mhm.
because that's putting, I believe, what the truth of the phenomenon is in one box. And like Bigfoot in one box, ghost in one box, aliens in one box, so you have all these separate
Yeah,
fields that are
yeah,
out there
yeah, yeah.
when we don't know that they could be all of the same. But when I go out there, because I'm not a Bigfoot hunter, I'm going out there seeking the truth, or hunting the truth, as I call it.
Mhm.
And it's, I guess when you do that and you don't focus on just one big hairy primate and that's all it is,
Mm-hmm.
then these other anomalies or phenomenons that happen, that occur around you, that's where you try to start piecing it together. Like my first documentary, I don't go into the lights at all. The second one really focuses on the lights and Bigfoot,
Mm-hmm.
that these things occur, around, at least from my perspective, because everything I put out, both films, I
Mm-hmm.
always say is 100% fact. I'm not going to flub anything. I'm not going to try to sensationalize anything. And so what I put out there is fact. Now, whether you believe, what we're seeing is real or not, that's going to be left up to the viewer. But you saw the second film where I
Yeah.
caught this thermal after
Yeah.
hearing a strange, weird owl call that
Yeah.
sounded like a person.
Oh yes.
You
That was
know,
no owl.
it
No.
was it was beyond,
Mm-mm.
no pun intended, beyond. I don't want to say creepy, but one of the things that people say, what are you afraid of running out into the woods? Are you afraid of running into Bigfoot, into Dogman, into?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm actually, the worst I'm afraid to walk into is a person, as a human.
Yes.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why it's always safety first, and always hike with somebody. Don't hike alone, not even
Yes.
during the day. I never recommend it. And
Mm-hmm.
always have protection. When I go out there, I'm not armed, but I have a reason for that. But I do have bear spray that sprays 33 feet, machete, Rambo survival
Mm-hmm.
knife. I've got all that to protect myself. But in this case, hearing that, what sounded like a human making an owl sound, made me throw my thermal on, because it was right there. And what I
Yeah.
caught behind that tree peeking,
Mm-hmm.
you'd have to watch the film, and you've seen it, to where
Yeah.
it's where we really just try to drill down to not say, hey, that
Yeah.
was a Bigfoot, but I can
Mm-hmm.
honestly say that was not a person that we caught. And there's no way that could have been an animal, because that animal would have been, if people think it was a raccoon or a possum on a tree, the thing would have been,
No.
1,200 pounds,
Yeah. Right.
So again, can I definitively say, yeah, that was Bigfoot, Harry and the Hendersons, smack dab? But its behavior of peeking behind the tree,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing the ball of light directly after that,
Yes.
really made me start to think. I almost had the trifecta of
Mm-hmm.
like a Bigfoot experience, except that ball of light. And then when the ball of light went in front of us, we all three watched it, and then we heard a loud breaking through the brush. So in my head, I'm calculating, slowly. But I'm like,
Sure.
wait. If that was a Bigfoot peeking behind a tree, and it finally ducked, after 52 seconds, after it ducked away, it wasn't there anymore. We see the ball of light just right in front of us, not behind the trees, right in front of us,
Right.
and then go into the woods and then break again. I'm like, did
Mm-hmm.
did Bigfoot just materialize into a ball of light, travel right in front of us, and then rematerialize? And that's what we heard breaking through. And there's no definitive answer. And as crazy as that sounds, that's when I really started diving into, like Ron Moorhead's book, The Quantum Bigfoot. Great.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite book, because it's so wide open. It's not, all, Bigfoot is just this ghost that floats around, because I believe Bigfoot is flesh and blood. But I also think it holds so many special attributes that
Yes.
we can't catch up with yet. So
Mm-hmm.
that there is really what got me going for the second film that I didn't have in my first.
Yeah. One of the moments that I found so interesting was when you guys heard that and you got it on audio, that tree. I mean, it sounded like a missile hit a tree and it exploded like that. It was that powerful and loud on your audio. And then you guys couldn't even find anything down. You couldn't
No,
find anything.
no, yeah,
How do you even try to explain
yeah.
that?
And again, you're referring to that, from the first film, that when the tree
Yeah.
fell. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. because that was even weirder because we're just hiking, and that's what I call it. We were just
Mhm.
hiking, and we had the lights off, but we were still able to see with a little ambient light.
Mhm.
And we just passed this one area. We stopped there just for a second or two, and then we continued to walk. And so we were only walking about 10, 15 feet. And I stopped again to pull out my thermal. And just because I don't know why I didn't hear anything. I just thought this would be a good place to check for cougars or, anything hiding
Mhm.
or anything else. And as soon as I pulled that out and started recording, is right where we were standing, 15 feet back, is where that tree went down. And it wasn't raining. It wasn't, there was no wind, and again, so, you go by the happenstance of, if a
Yeah.
tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? Because
Yeah.
trees do that when you're not standing there. And was this coincidence?
Yeah, but it
Or
wasn't just like a fall.
you could
It's
hear
like
a,
you
yeah,
could hear it like breaking apart. It
yeah,
wasn't like, oh, a tree fell.
right,
Like, oh, boom. It was like it was being from the inside out, just exploding. It's crazy. And I was
yeah.
like, did
I
you guys try to look for that like maybe during the day
and
too? Because
it's
I know
so
you
it's
guys it was a
so
nighttime investigation.
yeah, and it's
So
so hard to pinpoint the
uh-huh.
exact location because at this stretch of path, it was, good 75 yards, maybe 100 yards before it starts winding and turning.
Mhm.
And to be able to find exactly where that was, because when that happened, what did we call that? That was a pucker up moment because all of our backs, it happened behind us.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of Ghostbusters, the first one, when they're walking through the library and then the bookshelf in the beginning falls
Mhm.
and they weren't expecting it. And they were just kind of startled. And I think that's how we all were. We're all looking
Yeah.
this way and it happened behind us and it happened. We're just like, okay,
Yeah.
let's get it together here, and I'm turning
Yeah.
around with my thermal. I don't even turn on my bright lights or anything. I'm just looking for a thermal of something that could have been there. But the brush is so thick
Yeah.
that the thermals, they only do surface capture, surface heat. It's not like an X-ray where it can
Mhm.
go through trees or anything like that to be able to see heat on the other side. So if there was something there, it would have been well hidden in the leaves
Mhm.
and we weren't getting any readings. So that's why
Mhm.
it's like, did it just happen or what?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really interesting moment. I couldn't believe it. But I will tell you, I was very, I also identified with, when you talked about how going there, going to the kettle it's like, it's your escape, It's like,
Yeah.
I identify with that so much. Like when I go out, it's like I just all of a sudden I feel lighter, I feel happy, I feel joy, I feel
Yeah.
all of that,
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
yeah,
Connect. You got to connect with nature, right? And
yes,
I never
yes,
grew up that way. I mean, I
yeah,
was always like, there's poison ivy in there. There's ticks in there. There's, all this stuff. But I found a way
yeah.
to, uh, once I had my first sighting and or the first audio capture of what I believe was Bigfoot for sure,
Mhm,
what happened in 2013, and that there just grabbed me back into the woods. All of a sudden, I felt like I
mhm,
was being beckoned by the woods to go out
yes,
and do that. And it's not even so much saying, no, I'm not saying Bigfoot's beckoning me to come out, but there's something about the area that it's not work or anything. It's a joy to be out there,
mhm,
especially when you do this with friends. And I always say it's the journey. It's the first stop at a quick trip to get the
yeah,
munchies, to get the drinks before we head out.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then it ends up when we're running and screaming. No, we don't run
yeah,
and scream, but that's the whole part of the the journey to going out there. But you combat that. You don't want ticks on you. I don't want them. You're right. They're
mhm,
invasive. They're not even a bug. It's a parasite. I looked it up. You get like Sawyer's permethrin. You spray it on your clothes, and it stays on your clothes for about 6 weeks. And any tick or mosquito that gets on you doesn't just repel, but they die. And then on your exposed skin, you put on your off or something like that. Then that, helps you then get over those paranoias and to really go search to get, off the path.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first film where we found that structure, that weird structure that was out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and basically, you know, that's how I became more of a, okay, I'm gonna, be an outdoorsman. And I'll never say I'm an Outback Jack. I'm no Crocodile Dundee. Not yet, but every time I'm going out there, I'm learning new sounds. I'm learning new prints. And, then,
Mm-hmm.
however the hikes go, and it's not that every time I go out in the kettle, something weird happens. I could say, 4 out of 5 times, nothing really happens and it's quiet, but it's always a
Mm-hmm.
successful hike because you're with friends, you're in nature, and
Mm-hmm.
when you leave, you left with your head on. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? So I call that a successful
Yes.
hike. On that fifth hike, even though it's inconclusive, it's still something to document, record, and research further. And that's it, right? Because I'm not out there 365 days a year, just 24 hours a day. If you were on a continuing basis, you would learn everything that's out there that you've heard before, right?
Right.
So, yeah, if I was out one time in spring and I heard something I've never heard before in the past 9 years that I've been out there, it could happen that I was not out there during those other times. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
listen to every sound or every movement. It's going to be a Bigfoot.
Right.
I just don't do that. It would have to be like that thermal, that or a print
Mm-hmm.
or something that's a physical evidence left behind.
Yeah. The for me though, the physical evidence for me for my journey, I, we have a lot of physical evidence. We do. And I'm not trying to make light of physical evidence. Please don't anyone misunderstand me. But for us it's the journey. It's the
Yeah.
experience. It's the, so I a lot of times I I'm a knower and I'm an experiencer of a lot of things paranormal, ET contact I've had all my life. I mean, I've had a lot, and my son too. So it's the journey for us. It's this amazing journey that we've been on that started with Sasquatch, and it just I can't tell you, it hasn't ended, it hasn't slowed down. I mean, it just seems to be picking up more and more steam as we go forward. I mean, having all of these different experiences, thinking that, oh, okay, well, we're going to go out and we're going to look for this and we're going to look for that, and then something else happens and you're like, okay, hold on a minute,
Yeah,
and it makes you think a
exactly.
different way.
Yeah.
It changes the way you think about Sasquatch, about cryptids in general, and about the world around you. And
Oh,
that's the journey that your films take us on. That was why it's so important, for people to see that journey, because not a lot of filmmakers are talking about that journey. They're talking about, hey, we got a trackway, we have this audio, this, but they're not talking about the journey. And I think that's why your documentaries are really important.
and I appreciate that because I think that's really what it comes down to is again the journey because again, I never
Hmm.
believed that Sasquatch existed, and just having these experiences made me go down that hill because I'm more of a sleuth by nature, right? Because people are like, Jay, you
Hmm.
used to investigate ghosts since 2007, and you totally stopped doing that, and now you're shifted into cryptids. You're the Bigfoot guy. And you know
Hmm.
what? If my neighbor came over right now, well, not right now because I'm doing a podcast, but if he just came over and said, Jay, you got to come over here, and I open his front door and his couch is spinning, I'd be all over trying to investigate that part of it. So it's not a matter of just dissing the ghost phenomenon because
Hmm.
what I found in that field is that everybody knew what a ghost
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
and in any EVP they caught, and and I used to do this. We used to research a house for 6 hours, 7 hours, and go through the evidence, and there was or the audio and video that we captured, And then what? Then you just leave that house. So you've really just looked at it one time. And these are some of
Mhm.
these other what I call Pam plays, like
Yeah.
Ohio State Reformatory, all these. Um, then you come into saying you don't keep researching it though. You
Mhm.
just go there one time and then you might revisit it again in 6 months or a year from now. But really, I guess that's what I'm looking for is those answers instead of the adrenaline rush of having an experience. Like you said, you're an
Right.
experiencer. And I would say I'm a knower because of what I've seen.
Mhm.
But that for what though? What am I going to do? Try to capture that on video and try to show that and uh, become rich and famous because Jay caught this? Well, you know what? Over half the people are going to say it's BS. They're going to say it's CGI. They,
Unfortunately.
right. And
Mhm.
so they already have their minds made up. So therefore, I'm not worried about the masses. I'm worried about, or not worried about, I'm focused on me personally. I mean, honestly, I would love to capture an up close video that I could actually come home and show my wife so she could stop rolling her eyes, you know, and say, look, your husband is not crazy. And I don't mean
Right.
that in any
Yeah.
disrespect. She is very supportive of what I do. I mean, very supportive. And, behind every good man is a great woman.
That's
So,
true.
and
Yeah.
so to be able to go out and try to convince the world is not going to happen. It would be a feeble attempt. But what I'm
Mhm.
trying to do with my films is not only show my journey of that, but to talk about the truth. And now, what is that
Yes.
truth? Okay, there's Bigfoot behavior. There's also these
Yes.
lights that coincide. These are the experiences I'm having. I don't over sensationalize, like I was saying. My films, they are what they are. Now,
Mhm.
I do have to add music because, without music, it's beyond boring. No pun intended. But but with this, no matter
Yeah.
what, because I always think about that, where it's like, oh, Jay, you put a real good soundtrack in with that. Well, that's all part
Sometimes,
of.
yeah, I mean, even in the one side project that my son put on in Panhandle Monsters, they went to a property that they were all of the audio was corrupted. So he had to put, like some music in, that he got great footage, except the audio was corrupted. What do you do? You don't know
Yeah,
that in the moment. You don't know that until you get home and I don't know, maybe you get home and you need to because I think for him, I think it might have been, it was a week straight. He was gone and they were all over the place and all over Florida and the panhandle and
yeah.
Alabama. And they were just, exhausted. I don't even think he got to go through everything for a few days after he got home. So it
Few
was
few
like,
days. Sometimes it
what
takes
are
me
you
like
going to
a
do?
week or two
Yeah.
to go through it,
Yeah.
and sometimes I could even go through it, and I always get to the parts that I believe something happened and really focus on that because
Hmm.
I wear a body cam audio. I mean, really, I've got two 5 terabyte drives just filled with pictures, video, and audio. I save everything.
Yeah.
So literally, you could take my story from when I started in ghost hunting all the way up till now and just make a series out of it. But
Wow.
but the thing is, it's really hard to determine exactly
Yeah.
what it is out there that you didn't catch. Now, in my second film, when I'm looking above Anthony, remember he was sitting at the picnic table,
Hmm.
and my
And
body
that light.
cam,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there was no, there were leaves and brush and everything behind him. So, because one of the things you want to make sure of is when you're in the woods and you're going down a terrain, sometimes the lights in the trees are actually stars, right?
Hmm.
Because you've got to note that whatever this was, there's too many leaves there. It was too there was no wind, so it was very still. And like I said, whatever that was didn't move, and it wasn't like an animal sitting on a
Hmm.
branch looking at me with two eyes facing
Right.
forward. It almost looked
Right.
like just this one. And if you see the tree, I can almost surmise that it was something standing behind a tree with
Hmm.
one eye just looking at us.
I
I,
was thinking that.
But
Well,
now
that's so
remember
nice.
that all happened before the fake owl call and the
Mm-hmm.
thermal capture, then the light, and then the breaking through the trees. So we caught all that within maybe 10 minutes. That was it, the whole hike. So yeah, it was pretty intense.
Let's see here. We do have a couple of questions. Let's see. Primal Cry. Jay, what's the best audio video equipment for research?
Well, you could actually spend thousands and thousands of dollars. What I'm using is for my audio device, I'm using an H1N Zoom. Those are,
Hmm?
I think there's like 5 generations of Zooms, and they're really
Ye-
kind of made for musicians, really, but they do capture really, really
That's
good.
yeah, that's what
The
we have.
the
Hmm.
H1N. Okay, so
Yep.
with that, what I always do is because I like to go hands free, and I have a backpack or whatever, I'll put the wind guard over it as well. It looks like Don King, actually. um
Yeah,
but
I've
actually,
seen.
yeah, that's why I've actually nicknamed it, right, Don. But anyway, so when I put it there, then I can forget about it, and it's not going to brush up against my arm or anything else like
Hmm.
that. So the H1N Zoom is what I use, and I've been using that for 9 years. No, actually a little longer with the ghost hunting, and I'll never go to the H2 or 3, or they get more complicated, and it really, again, like I said, they're made for
Hmm.
musicians. Um, but then the body cam, Bob Love reached out to me. You can actually find Bob Love cameras, body cams on Amazon, and they reached out to me to see if I could review their product for them. So they sent me one.
Cool.
Yeah, which was cool. I did the review and they said keep it. Then they sent me another one and said keep it. Then they sent me a little one and said, So I have a bunch of cameras,
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, but that's the one I would go by, and
Hmm.
they're right around $100, $109 on Amazon, and I
That's not
love
bad.
it. Yeah, because they're during the day they're on, and as soon as it gets dark, click, it goes to infrared
Automatically, so you don't even have
automatically.
to.
Right. So therefore,
Mm,
I have my audio on me and my video, and I
right.
forget about them.
Yeah.
I was
And you
going to
just
laugh at.
go and have your experience.
Well, yeah, you do that too. No, I was going to say sometimes you have to stop and use the bathroom too. That's why I was saying what once it's running, it's running. Okay, but none of that made it to my film. Anyway,
Thank goodness.
yeah, but they're great cameras. So that's what I mean is when you put them on, you forget about them, but they're documenting your every step in
Hmm.
the woods, from out of your car through the whole thing.
Through the
And
whole thing. Yeah.
yeah, so that's why I like, because when I first started going into the woods, um I was kind of like my own little production company. I had a apparatus that held my bright light, my HD camera, my thermal, everything was on this one piece, and I'm walking around with this spotlight, looking for Bigfoot way in the beginning. And then it dawned on me, I think it was at one of these hikes, that I would ask this one question. And this is where the journey is, and where you grow and you evolve, and you constantly have to evolve. But I was like, if we were out here in the dark, right? Turn off all the lights, you're on the path, you're in the dark. And then about 50 yards away from you, you see in the dark a flashlight coming at you. And you can tell it's a flashlight because the way it moves, it's walking on the path, walking towards you. In the dark, what's your first instinct to do? You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'd hide, or I'd turn and go the other direction," and that's precisely right. It's
Hmm.
not really a fight or flight, but I stop and say, Why would you turn and hide?" And because they would say, "Well, we know it's a person, but we don't know their intentions." So you have that
Hmm.
unknown flashlight coming at you,
Yeah.
and it made me think, I can't go out with, I say guns ablazing, but my apparatus and these lights. And so that's when I started putting audio, and I got a body cam, and then I started going
Hmm.
out hands free, and that's where you'll see me
Yeah.
whenever I go out there now. um, and it started kind of as a little, I don't want to say a joke, but when I'd walk out to the woods, I would talk to the woods, and I would say, See, nothing in my hands, nothing in my hands. And I'd kind of keep them up,
Mhm.
kind of not like hands up, but like, you know,
Yeah.
like this. And then I'd wave to them. Then I'd always hear like a possum or raccoon laugh after I do that. Um, Not really. Maybe they do. I don't know. But ever since I started doing that in 2015, I haven't stopped doing that. You know, in fact, the people I go
Mhm.
with when we go in there, they're like, "Jay, you didn't do your thing. Got to do your thing," because it's like a recognizable.
Yeah.
Hey, it's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's a relationship with the woods.
100%.
Yeah.
And Matt and I do the exact same thing when we go out. We don't go armed, and we do the same thing. We before we like start a hike or before we start anything, we just thank them for allowing us to be in their space, then
Yep.
let them know that we mean them, all, respect and love, and we're not there to harm them, and we're just
And
there
again, some
to
people would ask why, right? Because I say if you want to go out and you want to look for a gorilla and you want to bang on trees and
hmm
yell, I'm not
hmm
I'm not knocking excuse me, I'm not knocking any of people that do that because I think we're big time influenced by TV finding Bigfoot.
hmm
And I even did that in the very beginning. But I started thinking I don't know what that means. If I just want to get a response by a wood knock and I hear it back, I'd be like, but
hmm
is that, Bigfoot banging on a tree with a club? Is it Bigfoot clapping with his hand?
right,
Is it another person looking for Bigfoot that heard yours and is answering back? Or
right.
four, is it just somebody messing with you going, ha
hmm
ha, boom? We really don't know what that means. So I kind of want to do the up close personal approach because I'm not
hmm
trying to uh, discover or capture them. I'm trying to, that's going to sound crazy, but make contact. And making contact doesn't mean I'm going to sit down with Harry and the Hendersons and drink coffee or Daryl, right? All
Right,
these
right,
different
right.
names. But what I'd like to do is get to that next level of understanding what they could be. Remember, like
Yeah.
I was saying about ghosts, everybody just knows ghosts are people that passed on, and that's it. So why do people keep doing it then?
hmm
It's just they capture their EVPs or their orbs or whatever they capture and saying it was a ghost. Great. Now keep peeling that onion. And if you want to peel it down to, well, that's just a dead person, then you've solved it all when
Exactly.
we really haven't solved it all. At least
hmm
that's the way I feel. And I kind of got out of the paranormal community that way, uh, going more into the cryptid side of it.
hmm
But I don't have those answers, and that's what I that's what I want. And people say I'm crazy, but that's one of the reasons why I don't carry a firearm with me is I'm like, if these people, I don't even call them beings anymore. I used to say
The
creatures.
people,
Then I said beings. Now I call them people. I call
the
them the Bigfoot
people.
people.
Yeah.
If these people are so hypersensitive to their
Yeah.
surroundings, and if you look at hypersensitivity of just your average dog, the dog could actually sense your fear. I believe these Bigfoot people could sense your confidence because we're not supposed to be out there, right?
hmm
That's not our home. It's
Right.
it's alien to us, even though we go in and we respect it, and we're walking around like nothing's going to touch me. That's not a normal human characteristic for being in the
hmm
dark woods. There's more fear, but this
Right.
person's walking around with confidence because he knows he's packing. He knows he's going to take out whatever's out there. Now, on the flip side of that, sorry for making this so long, but at
No,
the same time, I always tell
I love
people
it.
don't. I always tell people if you feel comfortable with that, then you've got to do because no matter what, contact or trying to film or trying to discover
hmm
safety has got to be number one out of anything that you do out there.
Yeah.
Safety is the key. So for me, it's always hiking with one or two other people. Once you have that trust, you know that you run into a rogue cougar or anything like that. We have each other's backs, and
Right.
that's the most important. So
hmm
yeah.
Well, making that contact with them and trying to build trust and eventually relationship, with them is one of the things that we we kind of have been kind of trained to do too. And interestingly enough, there's been so many times when we really don't have to go on hikes and that are miles long or deep into the, I mean, in all honesty, one of our really amazing interactions we had, I mean, they just come to us. Like you just go, you camp, I tell people all the time, like, go live your life, go camping, sit around your fire, have some, joke and talk and music and whatever. They're going to come to you. You don't have to go out there for
Look at that.
days.
You're using
Just,
you're using Jay's technique and talking to me because people say, "What's your technique?" And I said, "All right, I'm going to tell you a secret. It's called the human technique." And
yeah,
they're like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Just be yourself. That's it.
yeah,
You hit it. Hit the nail on the head. It's not about going miles
yeah,
deep or dressing in
yeah.
camo. I don't dress in camo. I dress in like
Mm-mm.
bright safety green because I don't want to get
Mm-hmm.
shot because I'm not out there
Right,
hunting
right,
rabbit, right? I'm not
right.
hunting Bambi or
Yeah.
anything like that. I want them to find me. And
Mm-hmm.
actually that's where, finding Jay comes from. It's a
Yeah.
play on finding Bigfoot from a Bigfoot perspective, but it's
Mm-hmm.
finding Jay because I don't think we'll ever find it, find Bigfoot. I think that's like you just said, it's going to be right there. People say,
Yeah.
well, Bigfoot can't be, 50 yards off the road. That's not deep in the woods. And it's like,
Yeah.
they're there.
Yeah.
That's where the
Mm-hmm.
action is. You've got,
Yeah.
if you look at the kettle, then you have these like little fingers that go through the kettle. Those are called
Mm-hmm.
roads. But in the grander scheme of things, you are in the middle of the woods. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, that'd be great entertainment, wouldn't it? Just to stand on the side of the road and
Yeah.
watch cars and people go by, and all right, there you
Yeah.
go.
I think, yeah. And I think, again, my opinion, but I think, you know, their curiosity is kind of where we are able to get some of that evidence, you
Hmm.
know. But for, I don't know, for me and for my son, it's I just love the experience. I love that I don't know. I There's something about it that you just can't quite actually put words to. It's this awe. It's this I don't know. It's I honestly don't have a word. I really don't. It's
Yeah.
There's this thing that happens to you
Hmm.
when you have an experience on, again, I know that there are many people who have negative experiences, where they felt where they were in danger or scary. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying that every Sasquatch is warm and fuzzy and user friendly. I'm not saying that. But
Right.
what I am saying is that are when your intentions are very visible to them and they understand that you're not there to hunt them, I believe, and it's been my experience, that they are curious, that they are looking at us, trying to figure us out just the same way we're trying to figure them out. That experience to me means more than a print I find
Hmm.
or a photograph. Or we don't even take a lot. There's a couple of areas that we go into. We don't even take cameras. We don't even take audio. We just go. We go. We and they come to
Yeah.
us
And
every time.
that's why I always say, if you
Yeah.
ever try to go out hiking naked, and I don't mean naked, but naked of
Hmm.
technology, which I've done in the beginning of the year. I would get up at in January, February, -6 degrees here in southeast Wisconsin, and I would still go find my spot. I'd be all thermed up, bring my coffee, and just sit and be there because, like you just said, you can't explain why. And it's weird because I
Hmm.
actually use that as saying you are tagged, right? It's
Yes.
almost like you didn't do this your whole life, and all of a sudden, you're drawn to it, you love it, and it's what you were trying to say about the non-aggressive approach,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what that is. I have always thought about this as Disney's Aladdin, the Diamond in the Rough. Um, is there are certain people I'll take out with me that almost feel the same I do, where we have a little bit more different type of encounters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some that are just kind of maybe more skeptical, or just maybe a different idea that I don't know about that we don't. And I know the people that I do that are like magnets, that I know for a
Yes.
fact will be able to do that. So it's like
Yes.
you said, it's you don't know what it is, but I could tell by the way you're talking about it. You sound just like I do, where I get excited when I go out
Yeah.
there. I
Yeah.
have to I have to kind of keep it more grounded here, that I'm so excited to go out there, but I do. I love it. It's my escape. I love going out there
Yeah.
and being out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. And I miss it, and I don't get out as often as I would like to. But I mean, I'm in South Florida, so I'm in the concrete jungle, and some of our research areas are in the Everglades and Big Cypress, and we've also been to the Green Swamp, but our one of our favorite places to go, and I tell, and I've said it before, if all of the millionaires in West Palm Beach knew how close Sasquatch really are to them and their $1 million homes, they'd be moving.
Yeah, but again, and you're right, but it's like you can't
Yeah.
convince them.
No,
It's it'd be
no.
like saying, "Do you know that you have a unicorn with Loch Ness monster right in that pool right next to you?" They'd be like,
Yeah. They'll be like, huh?
"Whatever. Let's go play tennis." It's like,
Right.
and I think that's where the whole tag thing comes from,
Yeah.
because I don't want to go out there just to film and make movies. People said, "Hey, if you ever really did record one, would you tell anybody?" And
Hmm.
this is weird because I have two films out, but at the same time, it's like I
Yeah.
hold true to what my intentions are. Is that not only do I not want to go out and harm them, but I also say I don't want to expose you, because
Correct.
this here now has become, to me,
Yeah.
that contact. And
Hmm.
now I know a couple of years ago, 2015, I think it was, in June, me and Chris out there, and these weren't in either films because this is only my word, and just saying my word is sometimes like I don't have enough to back it up, but you're hearing it here first. It was dark. It just got done raining, so we heard the little rainfalls falling off each of the trees, just around you, 360 degrees right around you.
Hmm.
And it was dark enough to where I could barely see Chris, maybe 10 feet away from me, barely, but it was super dark. And he goes, we're on this big trail, 12, 15-foot wide trail, and it's on a 300-foot kettle. So it just goes straight down on each side of us.
Gosh.
And dark. And he likes to bring his billy club out and do knocks. He goes, "Hey, do you mind if I knock?" Absolutely, go ahead. He goes over and knocks. Boom, boom. And I closed my eyes. I don't know why it was dark enough, but I closed my eyes to help concentrate. And I'm hearing, just all around me from the rainfalls coming off there. And then all of a sudden, directly behind me, it's always hard for me to talk about because it bothers me. Um, there was a bipedal step to my right behind me, and then
Mm.
right to my right, then directly behind me, and then one right to my left, and it stopped. And I think the reason why
Whoa.
it's hard to talk about is because I couldn't move, I couldn't speak, I
Yeah.
couldn't motion to Chris. I was petrified, and I don't even
Wow.
mean like scared out of my shaking. It was more like I I was just still. I couldn't talk, I couldn't move. I'm like, that feeling of, do you remember when you were a kid? Maybe sometimes it happens now. You're in the basement, or I don't know if you have basements in Florida, but you have a basement and you turn off the light in the basement, and you're going upstairs and you have that feeling of something coming up from the darkness to get you. It
Yes.
was kind of like that feeling. What seemed like 10 minutes that I was just standing there thinking, I don't know if I was thinking I was going to die or whatever it was. Finally, I snapped out of it. and I was able to walk directly to Chris. So instead of turning on a flashlight, I had my therm in hand and turned around and looked at my therm really quick. Nothing was there. So
Wow.
I never heard it approach except for the far right one, then in the
Hmm.
middle, and then stopped right behind me as if something was standing directly behind me. I'm going basically by, I do have audio, and you can hear the rainfalls. And if I really wanted you to listen to the steps, I would be able to point them out. But that's like the ghost hunting show saying, listen to this EVP. It says, wait, listen.
Yeah.
It's like, but no, it says Bob. And then you listen to it, it's like
Yeah.
Bob, like, oh, I did hear it because it's suggestive thought. So I didn't want to put any of this audio in my film to try to pinpoint it and try to, and plus it was, I always say, I don't want to say demasculizing or anything like that, but as a man, you're strong, you're tough,
Mhm.
you're a protector. That's what you do. And whatever this was had me, I was just,
Did it
you
give
know,
you a sense of I'm did it give you the sense that it did it to you on purpose? You know what I mean? Like it was very deliberate. It
abs-
wanted you to know that it
abs- ab-
was right there.
absolutely, absolutely. Now I'm
But
wondering it. Yeah,
but
go ahead.
it didn't try to like reach out to you or hurt you or harm you. It was like, but I want you to know I'm here. Interesting. Oh wow.
Right, and the reason why is because here I'm talking a big game that I want to make contact. Maybe this was the
Mm,
first approach of
right.
saying, let's see if Jay's ready for me. Again,
Yes.
speculation, 100% speculation, but that's what I
Mhm.
felt, and I failed it. I failed that test, but it also helped me.
See, I don't think you failed it. I don't think you failed it at all. You
Well,
stood there for 10
yeah,
minutes
but I
and
couldn't move if I wanted to. I wanted to move, but I couldn't move.
but
That's what, what I'm saying.
but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like you didn't fail the test. You didn't run screaming and you didn't like turn around with the
yeah.
flashlight and you stood there
I stood
and
my ground while it was
you
about to pummel me. I don't know, but I
but
know, and I know what you're saying,
that
but
actually is a good thing. I mean, I think that's a great experience that you walked away from, and I don't think that was a negative. I don't think it would have sent
the,
a negative.
I think the negative part was that it was the fear over
Yeah.
me. That was one, but number two is I thought about it more after that hike, and
Hmm.
I said, I'm done. I have no idea what that was, and all of a sudden I'm starting to think of my wife, my kids, because my wife said if I
Yeah.
ever go out into the kettle and I die, she said she's going to kill me. So so I think I was thinking more about that of like, okay, Jay, what are you doing? You really
Hmm.
don't know what you're doing out here. You
Yeah.
think you're doing this, and it could be that. And what I said is literally, I put my backpack away, and
Yeah.
I didn't go out for over a month. I said,
Wow.
I'm done. I got to put this aside. I'm getting too vested in trying to find the truth, and all of a sudden the truth is there and I can't move. That's
Yeah.
where the failed part where I came from, where I put it all away. But I
But
have
you're
good.
not the. I will tell you, you're not the only researcher that I've talked to that has had an experience. One of my other shows, there is Shane Carpenter. His channel is called Ozark Mountain Sasquatch, and I don't, you might have seen his documentary. It's called Into the 400.
I have not seen that one yet, but I've
Okay,
heard it. I'll check it out.
check it out. It's
Okay.
really good,
Okay.
and Shane's amazing. I've had him on my show. Shane in the 400 in his area, there was an opportunity for him where he came across and was only feet away from a juvenile. And all he said he could do was freeze. And it was kind of frozen. It wasn't moving. It wouldn't move. It was almost like it was waiting for him to move before it moved. Almost like it stayed where it was, thinking maybe Shane couldn't see it, right?
Yeah.
And Shane felt the same way. He felt like he had failed because that was a missed opportunity for contact.
Right.
But I don't see those as being missed opportunities. I see it as you're so close and
Yeah.
it didn't freak out, it didn't hurt you, it
Right.
didn't, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's amazing,
And
you
it is, and
know?
you also have to use that to evolve with, because like you said,
Yeah.
uh the Bigfoot people, I don't think are all big fluffy gentle giants, or I think there are, just like
Mhm.
the human race, you're going to have some really jerks out there. You're going to have the bad
Mhm.
people, you're going to have the nice people, right? And
Yeah.
you really don't know, and I think that's where the standoff happens,
Yeah.
is at that point. But that did help me again evolve in my journey
Mhm.
of saying, okay, well, maybe that was their first attempt of saying, hey, Jay, okay, we know you're here, I
Yeah.
am. You may not be ready now, but
Mhm.
maybe now you'll learn from this, and maybe you'll be ready the next
The
time,
next time. That's
you know.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
so it's how, keeping an open mind, positive attitude,
Mhm.
tenacity.
Yeah.
You just kind of keep going with it and just have fun with it,
You know, there's days though that I think that all of us get very sucked into the rabbit hole, and we all need to kind of sometimes, put it down, step away for a little bit. I know that happens to me. I get very overwhelmed, and I have an autoimmune disorder, so I can't be constantly out all the time. I need a
hmm
lot of, I do need time for rest. And it was, but I'm telling you, it's the journey for us beginning, because when we started our journey, it was very, this is an ape, it lives in the forest, and there might be a skunk ape in Florida, but we don't really know. We've just kind of, it's just like rumor, and it's really a Pacific Northwest issue. It's their problem, not
yeah.
our, So it was kind of like, so we go on this first expedition, and we had everything. There was everything, everything that you can, everything you can imagine. We saw UFOs. We had paranormal activity. We caught EVPs. There was a tree at one point early in the day on the first day that there was a tree that was pushed over that we couldn't find. Same thing. That's why I was kind of like, oh, that's weird because
Yeah.
that happened to us. We found hair. We found, a lot, like we found footprints. We had something throwing rocks at, or little acorns or pine cones or something at our tent all night long. We heard whoops. We heard it.
You got the
The
classic, yes.
entire weekend was that way. Our electronics were messing up, our phones were messing up. We had that phenomena going on. Like it was crazy. So anytime that Matt and I go out, whether we're separate or whether we're together, I think more stuff happens when we're together. We both have abilities. So I think we're both beacons,
hmm
for lack of a better term. But when we're
Magnets, yeah.
together, yeah,
Yeah.
when we're
Yeah.
together, we have a lot of experiences. We have a lot of paranormal, a lot of UFO, a lot of Sasquatch, a lot of, so the only thing that I don't know for 100% is if I've, that I am aware of, we haven't experienced Dogman. Matt's got a couple prints that he's pretty sure, and he's had some people vet that,
Yeah.
could possibly be Dogman. But, that's the Dogman is kind of the only thing that makes me very unnerved, like kind of nervous about,
Yeah, because that's
like
like the
Dogman.
the real scary thing, because
Yeah.
it seems like Bigfoot would be more physical because it leaves more
Yeah.
prints and breaks, and Dogman,
Hmm.
you don't see a lot of people finding tons of evidence of that, unless that Dogman is some sort of descendant race of Bigfoot. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Who knows with that answer, but that's exactly it. So it's like when you go out there and you were saying, you guys are beacons when you're together. There's times too, because I do the leapfrog technique.
Yes.
as well as the human technique. I do the leapfrog technique,
Hmm.
but that safely separates you by 100 yards, with the person in the middle only being 50 yards from each person. But I'm telling you, we did this last week. I had a friend come up, Gary, and my buddy Chris, and we were out there, and Gary's never done leapfrog before. He actually saw it in my film, and so he's excited to do that, you know. And I'm like, all
Hmm.
right, what do you want to do? Do you want to go the furthest, go in the middle, stay in the end? He goes, "It's my first time. I'll go in the middle." Okay, which is smart, safety first.
Yeah.
And he went out there, and nothing really happened on my end. I think Chris had a few weird things, but unexplainable. But Gary saw, oh, the only way he phrased it, because it was twilight, it wasn't totally light, and it wasn't totally where you couldn't see.
Hmm.
He saw what looked like, the only way he could explain it was like in Scooby Doo, a guy dressed up in a ghost sheet go from one end of the trail to the other, just across. But you couldn't see like the leg part of it, but you could kind of make out the shoulders, the head, which is really weird because
Wow.
I took somebody out in 2018, and I've never told anybody this because there's really no concrete evidence, but we were out near the late afternoon, and he saw the same exact thing on the
Oh,
same
wow.
path. So there I have two
Wow.
different people, 2 different years telling me the two different things. But now what is that? So
Yeah.
that's where you get to. Now you're like, okay, wait, it didn't look like Harry and the Hendersons. It looked more like a ghost. So therefore there's Bigfoot and ghost here. But in 2016, when I was with my youngest daughter and from my first film,
Hmm.
when I was out there, just, people always say, Jay, stop bringing your kids out for bait for Bigfoot. You're such a bad parent. No, I'm not out there for
You're
bait.
living your life.
It's during the day.
Yeah.
She has 5 little legs, little hike. She wanted to get out there. I want to show her nature, not to be afraid of
Hmm.
nature. And but there was in February, so the snow melted, froze. That's what happens here in Wisconsin. And so there was like ice, and she was on there, and she just skating around my legs, like, she want to be an ice skater. Daddy, pull me, pull me. And then something to my right caught my eye. I was looking at my 12, so about my 2 o'clock, because I saw it. It was like an auburn shape, and I turned my head to look at it, and it was about 80 yards away, but I could see through all these pines, fresh cut 32 feet, so you could actually see through all the trees. And when I look at it, I see the solidness, and then it moved like a blur. Like,
Wow.
it moved so fast, but I could still see I could still see the full blur of the auburn. And where I say auburn is because in February up here, everything is just dull brown. That's winter here in,
Hmm.
in, in Wisconsin. And this was kind of a brighter auburn, and it moved. And the only way I can explain it is it moved from like zero to blurdom, like almost instantly. And I don't know where to
Wow.
go with that, because you could say, well, all right, now you're looking at shadow people.
Hmm.
But I mean, what I was looking at when I first looked over, because something got my attention, and when I looked over, I could see the auburn, the solid auburn. It wasn't
Hmm.
a ghost or anything; it was solid, and then it turned into a blur. That's what uh, Devin in my second film at the end, his interview is just, to me, so compelling, because I was there. But those were some key words. He saw something that moved like a blur, and I've never
Hmm.
really heard anybody say that. And it also happened smack dab in the middle of my research area.
That's
So,
crazy.
it's the pieces that you're trying to put together. I still don't have
Yeah.
them. So I wish I did. I could tell you all this, but, you know,
I think we're always going to have
yeah.
more questions, like we get answers. I think we do get some answers, personal answers for our personal journeys. Um, I don't think all of our personal journey answers make the communities happy, because a
Hmm.
lot of them just will not accept the fact that there are other phenomena that associated with Sasquatch. There's no way around it, and I love the
Yeah.
fact too that you have so much ghost hunting experience and UFO experience. Like, so I appreciate that about you, because you're already kind of, when you're having an experience that you're maybe contributing to Sasquatch, you're kind of running down you're ticking off all these little boxes from the experience, research
Right.
experience in these other fields. So for you, it's, you have a lot of
Yeah, but
stuff you can compare things to,
but that's exactly it. And doing the ghosts, you've heard of orbs, but usually you see the orbs
Yeah,
because you're not investigating the outdoors. You're usually doing property, a building,
right.
um, which the outdoors is so uncontrolled, right? You can try to control your environment while you're investigating a house, listening to the fridge, turning off any power, air
Hmm.
conditioning, right? You're controlling that environment in the house.
Right.
Outdoors, it's open field. It's it's totally uncontrollable. And when I see the orb of light, sure, I could immediately go, wait a minute, what's this ghost doing outside the building, doing in the woods?
Hmm.
And so it's a rundown like this because, like you were saying, have you seen UFOs? Have you seen all these other phenomena that's happening out
Hmm.
there? And that's where I'm trying to find the connection to them. Like I was saying about Bigfoot, does is Bigfoot flesh and blood? 100%, I believe it is, but it has special attributes that we can't understand. Which I put that more into the supernatural scale, not the paranormal, but the supernatural. And
Hmm.
if you really look up the difference between the two, um, the paranormal's by science, supernatural's more by spirit, which is probably something the Native Americans looked at of saying, "Oh, that's the water spirit," because we heard
Hmm.
that in Ho Chunk and La Crosse, Wisconsin. And so, what is a water spirit? Do you think it's a mermaid or something? No, they're big and hairy, and they stand by the by the river,
Mm.
but yet it's there and it's not. So, were they talking about Sasquatch back
Yeah.
then? I don't know, but I think that's where I go when you're asking, when I'm trying to run everything down. I'm not trying to think, all these the different fields, and then
Hmm.
they're all mixed up, or if a light is just associated with Bigfoot, or is Bigfoot a light, or could it be supernatural and become a light? I don't know.
I
And people, and
know.
again, people say, "Oh, that Jay, that's like Star Trek beaming." You're breaking down molecules, and again, that's when I started reading Ron Moorhead's The Quantum Bigfoot,
Hmm.
which you got the apers who just believe that, no, Jay, you're crazy. Bigfoot exists, but it's just flesh and blood, nothing more, nothing less.
Hmm.
And then I say, okay, I understand they're flesh and blood, but explain to me the trackways that will go 12 prints and then in the middle of nowhere just stop. Okay, I understand it's physical. I understand that. Where does it go then? And I don't have an answer to that, but I know it's not natural because we can't do that
Hmm.
physically.
Hmm.
An ape couldn't do that naturally. So yeah,
I know.
it is that those are the million questions, and
It,
again,
yeah.
I don't
So
have them.
what are your thoughts on cloaking or that type of thing? I mean, just I'm not, I'm just asking. It's just a question. I
Everybody would say, cloaking is supernatural by the apers. They say they don't cloak, they
Mhm.
can't cloak. Well, how about this? And I'll just lay it on the line. Okay, just entertain the thought for a second, if you will. But you know, I'm Bible based. Okay, this is my faith, and nobody can take that away, no matter what you feel,
Mhm.
what you want to tell me that the Bible was written by old people and it's taken out of context and it's been passed down by. Okay, that's fine, and you can say that all you want, but no matter what, you know, I always say, hey, Jesus died for my sins. That's good enough for me. The Bible's 100%. That's what I go by. Now, why does this apply to my research? Is because if the Bible to me is something that I can't pick and choose what I want
Mhm.
out of it, saying this applies to me. Nope, this doesn't. This does. It's either you take it all in or you accept it all. I accept it all. The Bible talked about Noah being almost 1,000 years old. Now, was that taken out of context? Was it just written that he was 100 and they just added an extra zero to it? Or was it spelled out he was 1,000 years old? If people actually live that long,
Mm-hmm.
um, and when we think of like Noah and all these people, we're thinking of people like us, right? Just with a white beard, like in a play or a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was the beginning of Sasquatch. Maybe we kind of came from them, and we branched off. Because you've heard of the Nephilim, the fallen angels,
Mm-hmm.
mating with women, having a hybrid, and these Sasquatch people are wild. Um, so that's where the confusion of is it animal versus person? But I believe it is human, but a wild human, like a live out in the woods kind of human, not like us.
Mm-hmm.
And say they say these people can live to be 800, 900, or 1,000 years old. Let's just entertain that thought. Therefore, they would not have to keep their population going because they live so long. It's another reason why we may not be able to find their bones, because they're not even dying in our generation while we're looking.
Mm-hmm.
um, and that they have adapted so much into uh, the woods, the wilderness, the places we haven't even explored as people. Facebook and the internet has made the world very small, and we think that we've just covered everything. And there are still places on Earth that have never been touched, and they're still finding new mammals, or even in the ocean, right? But
Mm-hmm.
on landmass. So, is that possible? And I'm going to get to your cloaking question. I'm leading up to this now.
It's fine.
It's just my long-winded Edith Bunker answer. You can tell me to stifle anytime, but anyway, so if these people have just adapted to their environment, the woods, nature, is it possible that they're using more of their brain capacity than we are? Right, we're supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have we could have telekinesis, or where we could I don't want to say speak with our minds, but what if that's kind of where I'm at right now with them, is can they cloak, or are they like Obi-Wan saying these aren't the droids you're looking for, as we're out there, like
Mm-hmm.
you don't see me, I'm standing right here. And people can feel sometimes sick out there, right? They can feel like
It's
they want
happened to me.
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
happened to me too, with what they think is infrasound. But is it more the Jedi mind trick, where they're right there? I mean, if they're this big, you can't hear them walking through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're physical, you should be able to hear them walking everywhere. Everywhere. A squirrel sounds like a rhino out in the woods.
Right.
Uh, you should be able to hear this thing just crashing. And, it can't be that delicate, that it's that big, that it's not going to break any branches. So therefore, you should see trails of broken trees, so far up.
Right.
And we don't see that. So I think that's the reason why they're so stealthy, is because they're standing in front of us in plain sight, and we're the weak-minded, getting the Jedi trick pulled over our eyes. And therefore,
Mm-hmm.
that's my idea of what people would say they cloak. And that would be more natural. It wouldn't be paranormal. It wouldn't be like the Predator, like a wrist
Mm-hmm.
thing, and to be able to turn invisible. I think it's pulling wool over our eyes when we're out there. That's
Okay.
that's my long-winded answer of what the cloaking could be,
Mm-hmm. I
until
mean,
I
that's
see
a
until I see different.
yeah. I mean, listen. We don't know what the what the truth is until we can see it happen and kind of like my opinion. I think it's about the frequency and their vibrate. I think that they
Yes,
can vibrate and change their frequency, and that's why you see them, and then 2 seconds they're
and 100%.
they're
Have you
there, but you don't see them. That's how I think about it.
have you have
I
you
I
read
that's
the
what
Quantum Bigfoot
I
book
have
yet?
not, but I
You've
have
got you
seen,
you've
but
got to
I
read
have
this.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
to read it because it talks about that. That's exactly what Ron talks about in his book.
Mhm.
And the thing is, like you said, until we see it,
Mhm.
people say, does it go through a portal? I've never seen a portal, so I can't say one way or another. I'll be open to
Right.
it. If I'm out there and I see a big portal opening, I will tell you that they exist. Even if you don't believe me, I would say that, but
Mhm.
I haven't seen that. And if they can change their vibration, like Ron was talking about,
Mhm.
they're still physical. They're just changing their vibration,
Right.
and they can phase out. Would also lead into if they can break down their energy and phase in and out. Could they be balls of light out in the
Right.
woods? And could they be balls of light during the day where you're not going to see them? Like at night,
Mhm.
you pick them up more. I always say like during the day, it would be having like a white chalkboard with a white piece of
Mhm.
chalk and make a mark. It's very hard to see. Now you take a blackboard, same white chalk, it stands out at night.
Mhm.
And again, I think that's a possibility too. Like you said, until we see it ourselves,
Yeah.
I don't even want to say if I see it on TV or a documentary called
Yeah.
Finding J2, um, you
Or
know,
3.
or 3. But the thing is, that's kind of what my point always is that
Right.
I say, there's close to 8 billion people in the world, and everybody has their own reality, their own truth, whether that's a mass of people following what they hear is the truth,
Mhm.
or people like us going out in the woods and experiencing these and not being able to prove it. I can talk a big game. You can sit there and
Mhm.
believe me, or you can sit there and say I'm full of beans. But either way, it's going out and finding your own truth and going out and discover for yourself. If you really want to know if Bigfoot and these things are real, you have to be out there. Or you could be the mass of people that say, oh, well, Jay's onto something. I'm going to believe what he says. I just try to encourage people to discover for yourself instead of listening to podcasts, watching
Yeah.
documentaries. And don't get me wrong, I put my documentary out. It's good, and I encourage people to watch that because that also encourages you to take your journey
Start your
and
journey.
start your journey.
That's
So
right.
yeah, yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there are more and more researchers that are beginning to focus more on the journey. I do believe that. I do believe that. And like on my here on my channel and then on my son's channel, we are always we're open to, we want to build bridges between these communities, right? Um because we're experiencing all of these things. We're experiencing UFOs and ET contact and spirituality and learning to meditate and learning to, protect ourselves on a spiritual level and not just a physical level. We're on these journeys that are all of these different things all over the place. And it's like, I'm gonna have dogman people on my show. I'm gonna have paranormal. I'm gonna, like, I I want it all because I believe 100% in my soul that it's somehow all of this is one big huge phenomena.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's how
Yeah.
I'd like to put it. You could put them in
Yeah.
all these boxes. And the thing is, like you were saying about bridging all these communities, it's like
Mhm.
that never ending utopia that you want. And whether it's in the ghost field or the UFOs or Bigfoot or Dogman, people are just going to
Mhm.
jaw to death as if there's
Yeah.
a left and right of the same subject,
Yeah.
fighting it out. It's like, and you can't convince anybody. And honestly, that's pretty much the bottom line is I
Yeah.
know I can't convince everybody, so I'm not going to try to convince
That's right.
everybody. I'm going to put the facts out, take it what it is. My first film, people loved it, but all the people that loved it just messaged me, and which is great. I'm humbled by it, and I love the support. But then all the trolls that say I watched 10 minutes of this, I give this 1 star on Amazon, and it just took my rating down. Like, Jay, we don't care about your family. I mean, I look at them, and you've got to have, if you have broad shoulders, you got to narrow them and let this stuff brush off,
You
because
do.
you're not going to please everybody, and I
Yeah.
know that. But
Yeah.
some of them will like personal attack on my family. I'm like, oh,
You
but then I'm like,
know,
it's all right, it's all right, it's cool.
yeah. It's, you take the good with the bad. You take the good with the bad. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of people that try to just to create drama so that they can take that drama and then they make content on their channel about the drama that they created.
is that
Like
funny?
it's to me it's the most ridiculous thing when all of us can just coexist easily. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
don't have to I don't have to believe every single thing that I hear, or every single podcaster's everything on every single podcaster's
right.
channel. I don't have to believe it and I don't have to agree with it, but I guarantee I can always walk away learning something from
One
that
thing, right?
person.
Take one thing
Uh,
away from somebody. That's all it
yes.
is,
That's,
because
yeah,
there's no room for the negativity.
exactly.
And honestly, that's how I feel about it. And it's at first, one of my responses to some of the people that just attacked me, I would reply to it and just say, well, number one, thank you so much for at least watching it and being interested in it,
Hmm.
and I truly appreciate it. And then when your documentary comes up, let me know, because I'd love to watch it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's my
In other
way of
words,
saying, yeah, yeah.
get your ass out of your chair.
I'm just
Get
saying,
in the woods.
it is what it is. I'm not,
Start your
there's
journey.
so many documentaries out there that are
Yeah.
well done, and I don't think I'm the James Cameron, or who else is out there, Steven Spielberg, or anything like that. I'm my own production. I film, I
Hmm.
write it, uh, I edit it. Painstaking, takes over a year to do. I mean, just think, even trying to get the right music, and then getting the
Yes.
rights to use that music, and
Yes.
then using that music in the right place, and writing. Oh,
People do not know, and
it's
I didn't know myself
intense.
until I started watching my son go through, like, we were talking a little bit
Yeah.
backstage about the whole getting it to upload, the rendering sometimes, especially on YouTube, things don't, like, maybe there's whatever program you used isn't working well with trying to upload it to YouTube. Like, there's a lot that goes into these projects, and
Well,
just doing
exactly.
that is a journey,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you were saying, your son, when
Yeah.
he's doing that, these other bigger production companies have somebody who writes it, somebody who looks up the music
Hmm.
or creates the music, somebody who edits it, somebody who, like, goes over it, cuts things. I'm doing every bit of it, and working full time, and trying to be there for my wife and kids. So it's
Yeah.
like I juggle, and still trying to get out and hike.
Right.
So
And the
people are
research.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, people are like, slow down, Jay. You're gonna. And I'm like, this is just what I do. Now that it's done, and finally Prime, because I was trying other avenues, because Prime is a stickler now to get documentaries up there. My first
Mhm.
one uh, took 2 attempts, and there's guidelines, and you really have to go by it, but they're not specific. They just kind of give you a FAQ 2 page that you have to read and go, does that apply here? And you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Then you have to render your film. Then you have to upload it. And the size file they want is 192 gigabytes. And it took me 17 hours every time I attempted to upload, only for them to take 4 or 5 days to review it, to come back saying, nope, sorry, you've got these issues. And they don't tell you the exact issues. So yeah, it took me a while to get up, because it was originally, it's still on Vimeo, both
Mhm.
both films. And my first film still is on Prime, and my second one finally made it just a couple days ago. Yeah, so I'm
Yay!
like, but now, let's see. I don't think these will be available this week. This is probably backwards. Oh, no, that's it.
Yay! DVDs. I
Yeah.
love
So
it.
So it's
Love
yeah,
it. Now, do you have like a website or something that they
I
can get it
do.
directly from you?
I
Because
do.
I'm very big on that. Like, if there's somebody that I know is an author and they have a book and I want to, like, I go directly to them and say, hey, where can I get this where you get the most money? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Well,
I want, I want that content creator to get as much money as they can possibly get.
yeah, and basically, well, within the DVD, I'm gonna personally sign each one of these, and
Nice.
with the DVDs, actually, they're not DVDs; they're Blu-rays. Let's
Oh, Blu-rays.
blue
Yes,
they're
Blu-rays.
Blu-rays. It's not 4K, and it's not your standard 480 DVD. It's high quality HD with sound.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people say, well, I don't even have a DVD player. Well, if you have
Gaming
Xbox,
system. Yeah, the gaming
if you have a
systems,
Blu-ray
right?
player, or if you have a 4K player, all those
Mhm.
like DVD, Blu-ray, 4K will all work with that. But it's something that for me, like if I ever buy something digitally, I actually would like it for my collection. So I like getting hard copies of
Mhm.
movies that I really want to keep as a collection. That's
Yeah.
just me, though. A lot of people are today are just I'll stream it, but you never know when Prime will rip it away,
That's
or
true.
so once that's gone, or you lose connection of your internet, then you don't have it, then you can't watch my movie.
That's true.
That's all right.
No,
I'm just
I
saying.
mean, yeah, no, both of your films were amazing. I loved both of them equally.
Thank you.
I just, like I said, I love the journey. I love watching people's journeys, and I and another thing too that I loved about yours, you talk about your family. A lot of people do not do that. A lot of them they want to kind of shield their family, right? But
Right.
you were like, no, these are the people that I love, and
Yeah.
I'm
Well, it's like
also they're a
it,
part of this journey with me, and
they
you
are. If you
brought
think
them
about right,
in.
right, it'd be like watching Forrest Gump without Forrest Gump sitting at the bench. That was part of the story, or Vietnam,
Yeah.
or whatever. And my kids are a big part of it because as I'm learning, it's also a way I'm teaching my
Hmm.
kids to hunt the
Yeah.
truth. And hunt the truth just doesn't mean looking for Bigfoot, ghost, or aliens, but it's questioning everything in life.
Yes.
Just don't sit there and get fed into whatever
Yes.
you're hearing from everywhere. Stop. Let's research it. Let's find those answers before you jump the gun of that's what is going on.
Yeah.
And that goes on anywhere in the
A lot of
news,
yeah, a lot
anywhere.
of
Yeah,
assumptions are made because a lot of us don't go and research the facts.
exactly. If you know the facts and you bring them, you find those facts,
Hmm.
then that's what's important because, again, like I was saying, if
Hmm.
everybody just accepts that Bigfoot exists because they're
Right.
watching a podcast or they see a documentary, that's fine, especially if it's coming from credible people. I like to be credible, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the only thing that's going to last. It's not about
Right.
fame or fortune or anything like that. It's about my the integrity of what I do, the
Hmm.
credibility of what
Hmm.
I do, and if I can teach not only my kids, I already
Yeah.
tried my wife, but she's not an outdoors person. But if I could teach my kids and other people that I talk to on podcast
Yeah.
or when I present, then that's it. It's kind of like George Costanza. I'm done. I'm leaving my mark. I'm walking out the door. I did my part. I
Mic
want to be able
drop.
to teach. Mic drop. I just want to say all I want to do is pass that on. If you
Yeah.
want to call me full of
Yeah.
beans, call me full
Yeah,
of
because
beans.
but it really is about the next generation. It really is.
Absolutely.
It really
Absolutely.
is about the next generation. And what we do now is going to make a difference and driving these old narratives that have
Hmm.
been going on forever. Because, in all actuality, there's only two pieces of film that people kind of One they'll now say is correct, right? Is great, and it's the best, and it's the gold standard, right? The
Hmm.
PG film. But there's the other one that you had in your documentary, and I was very impressed because a lot of people don't even talk about the Freeman footage, and you had that in your
Yeah, my
documentary,
first one. Yeah,
and not a lot of people talk about that
I don't
footage.
understand that because I was
Me
like,
either, because it's
it's all right.
fabulous.
It's always the Patterson Gimlin film, and it's like,
Yes.
there,
Hmm.
there's so much good stuff out there, but at the same time, I get a lot of people send me messages through
Hmm.
Facebook or whatever, emails, or and share links and say, "What do you think?" And it's like there's so many that could be staged or hoax. I could say I'm not a
Yeah.
believer, I'm a knower, like you said. So it's like I know they exist. I don't know what they are, but I know they exist.
Hmm.
But I can't go by everything that you see. And
Hmm.
I think I stray away from that because I'm not there to investigate it, look at it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
wasn't there, so therefore I have to leave it as it could be or it couldn't be. I know it's
Right.
a gray answer, and just because I believe or I know that that's what it is, it's hard to do. And that's where the whole hunting the truth comes from, and that takes
Right.
everybody to be able to do that. Yeah.
Right. And I think that there's a big trend going on in the community right now where it's kind of like everybody is, they just want to immediately say it's a hoax and that person is a hoaxer. And I just don't believe in that. I believe that we should give everybody an opportunity. But again, like you said, research it yourself
Yeah.
and don't sit back and judge someone else's journey that they
Hmm.
have shared with the world. You don't have to agree with something. Like I said, you don't have to agree with everything, but I mean, that person put their heart and soul into that, and it doesn't mean that they're hoaxing. Maybe it's just they don't have
Yeah,
the answer,
they just call us gullible because
you
it's
know?
funny. I won't say
Because
that,
we don't have the answers to everything
and
that
we
we
don't.
see out there.
Right, but where do we see the majority of our ghost stuff on TV,
Hmm.
even finding
Yeah.
Bigfoot or the new ones? And you just got to remember because I was on the Travel Channel 2017 for the Beast of Bray Road, episode 8, really good episode.
Cool.
Yeah, but not just because it's because Linda Godfrey and Lee
Love
Hampel on
her.
his barn and everything. But it's basically you got to remember it's TV. TV
Hmm.
doesn't care about us. TV
No,
just wants to sell ad space
of
for
course.
the
It's a
for their it's a
business.
business. So
It's a
so so
business.
they know when to add and you know make
Yeah.
things a little bit more
Yeah.
dramatic, if you will. And honestly, that's why I first started ghost hunting was because the only thing that was on TV at the time was Taps, Ghost Hunters.
Hmm.
That was
Hmm.
it before it got saturated beyond belief up to this day. But
Yeah.
back then it was only one. And I watched that first season with just my eyes glued, and I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe there are such things. But then I'm like, no, this is TV.
Hmm.
And again, they don't care about me. They just want me to tune in. So
Yeah.
there's somebody's getting rich. So that's when I started going out saying I want to hunt the truth. No, I'm not physically going out with a gun and hunting something. I am seeking answers for
Right.
myself, whether it was ghost and now it's Bigfoot, you know, Dogman, UFOs. Actually, I made this shirt. This is a Jay special.
Cute.
Uh,
I like it. I like it.
see?
I
So you
love
got
it.
the UFO
Yep.
and the orbs
Dog
of
man.
light,
Yep.
Dogman, Bigfoot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I
And
love
it
it.
I work and I can make t-shirts, so
Yeah.
But I've
Well,
got so many of them.
but that's the whole thing. It's like
That's it, right?
we're never ever going to have every answer to every question. Just go out and experience what you can experience. We
Exactly.
don't have to have the answer to everything. Like,
No.
perfect example, we're in South Florida. We have hares that we have found that are clear. There are no polar bears in South Florida. Okay. It just doesn't happen. They're not
Mm-hmm.
here. They're not
Mm-hmm.
hanging out in the swamps of Florida. There's no such thing. And yet we're finding them here. So how can that be explained? Although I don't care. To me, it doesn't matter
See,
what color they
exactly
are.
right. That's the
I
that's the
don't,
best that's the best attitude to have, is that
you know,
you can't care because
I could sit here and tell everybody all the time and be like, yeah, there's no polar bears, blah, blah, we have this great evidence and it proves that no, doesn't
right.
doesn't matter. For me, the one I had a sighting in the mid 80s. It was a nighttime sighting, very brief, no, not really any major detail. But then I had a sighting in March, and I saw from here up. And I tell everybody when I talk about it what I saw. We locked eyes for maybe 2 to 3 seconds, and he just went zoop, like a periscope, just went straight down and gone. But what I saw from here up was very human. It looked human. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't it didn't look like an ape. It didn't have a conical head. It didn't have, except it was this beautiful, like kind of like an auburn, kind of like auburn red and gray skin. And it did not look like this huge bulking thing, kind of like a basketball player, kind of
Mm-hmm.
lanky,
Mm-hmm.
not that big. Maybe it was 7.5 feet tall. I'm thinking it might have been a juvenile. I don't know for sure, but what I saw was pretty human.
Yeah.
But to try to get somebody to believe that I had that encounter, I'm never going to convince everybody that, and I don't need to, and
Just
I don't
just just
I don't
like,
have
yeah,
to.
just like in my first film when I had
You
that
know.
night sighting, it was me and Mary Marshall sitting on doing a stakeout over the structure we found in January. So snow covered kettle, and it wasn't a full moon, but there was enough ambient light that really lit up the woods. You didn't need a flashlight; you could totally see
Mhm.
everything. But the further the distance was more black silhouette. And once we were positioned in a certain way, Mary was looking over my left. I was looking over her right, just getting situated, getting ready for a stakeout and
Mhm.
sitting on this huge branch. And all of a sudden I looked to her right, and I'm only going to guess 20 yards because it seemed closer, but distance was hard and it was kind of going down a slope. I see what looks like a gangly chimpanzee. That's the only thing I could really look at, but it looked huge, not a small chimpanzee, but he was like
Mhm.
kind of sitting on all fours, kind of not with his butt on the ground, but with the legs up a little bit. And I'm like looking at it, like kind of blinking. I didn't have any light in my face. My eyes were well adjusted,
Mhm.
and no sound was made. And I look, and the thing moves right behind this tree and the brush. But the weird thing was, it didn't walk. It looked like it was like on a cart with wheels, and somebody was just pulling it behind there. Just kind of,
Wow.
I'm like, wait, what did I just watch? What did I just see?
Wow.
And now I didn't have my body comment at the time. Of course, I was recording
Mm.
audio when this was going on. I'm like, whoa, I'm like a slow processor, not like, holy crap, see
Yeah.
that? It was more like blink, blink, Homer Simpson.
Oh my
What did I just
gosh.
see? And the weird thing is, again, you were talking about the feelings that you can't explain.
Yeah.
Uh, I wanted to go over there, but before we did, and as we were talking about what I saw, this whole big branch, we're sitting on a big oak that two people could sit on, and it still went about 30-foot branch, started to vibrate. Now, I was straddling over the branch, and my feet were on the ground. My feet were not vibrating. So actually, I thought Mary was cold. But when I was talking to her, she goes, "Why do you keep shaking the tree?" And I'm like, "I'm not." She goes, "I thought you were." I thought she thought I was moving. Uh, so something was going on to distract us, I believe, from
Mhm.
going to check out that When I say gangly, it did not look like the Patterson film or
Mhm.
Freeman film, even, with the big barrel chest.
Right.
It was like
Yeah.
you said, like almost like an NBA basketball player, just kind of
Yeah.
tall, thin. That's why I say gangly.
Yeah.
But the way it was sitting reminded me of the way a chimp would walk on all fours, and then it just moved behind a tree. So it was a clear sighting, and nobody can take that away. People usually say when you start repeating a story, all you're doing is lying to yourself because you really didn't see that. And I'm like, call it being tagged or whatever, but it's like whatever I saw, I see it so vividly in my head. Every
Yeah.
encounter that I've seen. But how do you explain that to people? You can't.
You can't. You
But I don't
can't.
care because you can't take it away from me.
That's
I
right.
saw it. I saw it. That means I'm still moving
That's
on
it.
to
That's
trying to
it.
make contact. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Making the contact. That's right.
making the contact. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, it could take, like I said, it could be the next generation that if we're teaching our children and grandchildren now
Hmm.
about showing respect when you go into the woods, don't show fear but be respectful, and teaching them about intentions and teaching them how to protect themselves. If we're doing those kinds of things, maybe it's the next generation that's going to have that
It
successful contact with them.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's like that's actually what I say in one of my mission statements on my website. Just it's under jaybachochin.com, but it is basically saying I'm trying to hunt the truth for tomorrow's investigators
Yeah.
to try to get
Hmm.
to that point of saying, like I keep wondering if my son or daughter will pick up the mantle. My youngest son, my youngest daughter, my only son, my youngest daughter. Um, but I think now my oldest daughter is kind of picking up the mantle because she did have an experience or two out there, and
Yeah.
again, it's like how do you get I say
Hmm.
tagged because I played paintball. It's like I'm out there, all of a sudden, thwap, and all of a sudden it's like all of a sudden you have this urge to go out there and to explore and to be
Yeah.
open and to make contact, thinking of all this crazy stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And if, like I said, if people would just go out, live their life, go camping,
yeah,
that's it.
all
It's
you
easy.
need to do.
It's that easy. It's that easy. And
We
teach your
should,
kids not to be afraid. Let them be informed, not afraid.
it's funny because like I
Two
was saying,
different
my when
things.
my oldest daughter started coming out with me, before she had her, no, she had somewhat of a contact, and then one a little bit later. But before then, when I'd walk around the woods and try to show her something, I
Hmm.
would always take even the smallest branch that was in front of me, and I would just gently pick it up and go around it. And some people would just hi-yak, okay, I'm just going to karate chop my way through or whatever, to break
Hmm.
everything. And it's like, so why do you do that? And I'm like, as
Yeah.
soon as we're here, we're in somebody else's, I call it
That's
home.
yeah.
And I do because this is their
Hmm.
life. I hate spiders. I see a spider out there, I walk right by. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not one of those monks, or you know what I mean.
Got to be
Where,
respectful. That's
but
the
but it is
whole.
that's what it is, and it's the respect
It's a
factor. So
sign of a respect. Yeah.
you go out there, do the human factor.
Yep.
You know, yeah,
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
So, do you have any Native American blood? Or I always ask my guests that. And the reason that I ask is because it is my belief that Native American blood seem to be more of a beacon, I think, to the
Yeah,
Sasquatch people.
I don't. I have Czechoslovakian blood in me, so a little American. I'm
Hmm.
kind of a mutt. Um, but no, I don't have any Native American, not in any of my heritage that I know
Okay.
of. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so
I just
it's
always ask every guest. I ask the same question every
yeah,
time because
yeah,
I find it so interesting.
yeah.
It
So I
seems
mean,
like
again, and the thing is, I don't know. Here's somebody who grew up thinking Bigfoot was a
um,
unicorn,
right.
and it's just people are wasting their time doing this. I mean, seriously, I would say that I'd believe in Frankenstein
Mhm.
and the creature from the Black Lagoon before I believe
Yeah.
Bigfoot exists, because it was always a joke. It was,
Mhm.
there's always this controversy out there and everything. So I'm like, just leave that alone. But now that I feel that I'm
Yeah.
tagged, I'm just, and maybe it's, I don't know. I
Yeah.
want to say like kind of a rite of passage to
Yeah.
do this, but you're right. There's a lot of Native American. There's a few Native American people I know that 100% have that connection
Mhm.
with the wilderness and the woods and everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I ever would, yet I do.
I
So
just feel
yeah.
like this is a calling to some degree, that those of us that are on a journey,
Hmm.
that we're doing the journey and we're trying to have, you know, YouTube channels. Like, I'm not a filmmaker, but I can, I can do a
Your
couple
son
shows,
can though.
but yeah. So that's the thing though, like I feel like he and I have a calling, and that's what we're supposed to do. And it's and I feel like there's more and more and more of us, and when I say us, I mean you too,
Hmm.
that are becoming more and more aware of the phenomena.
Right. Right. You
So,
you're. It's almost like the
yeah,
veil. The veil is getting
yes,
thin, and we're starting to see it
yes.
more. And it's not only just seeing it,
Hmm.
but we're believing it more. That's the
Hmm.
weird thing. It's not so much that you kind of think it's there. No, that can't be. It's kind of like
Yeah.
an acceptance,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
It just,
Because, we spend most of our life putting, like you were talking about, like the boxes, right? We
yep,
compartmentalize
yep,
everything in our lives, everything, our jobs, our home, our time with our children, the going to the gym, everything is in,
yep,
you know, this fits none of those boxes. So when you're trying to make something that we experience out there and trying to fit it into one of those boxes,
right.
it doesn't work.
No,
It just doesn't fit anything that we've ever been taught, anything that we've ever came across in books or read or seen on TV. Because even in the Finding Bigfoot, I'm telling you right now, I love that show. I'm not saying I don't love that show, because I love that show. It's not what I'm saying is, we're taught that we want to put, our brain wants to put something into a box of some kind.
right.
But that show doesn't give us anything that moves the needle forward.
No,
Never.
it's the same recipe. And again, I'm not going to
Yeah.
rip it on it either.
Yeah.
But
Because I loved it.
the reason why I watched it was for one reason, and that was the town hall meetings. That's it.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
it's like
Hmm.
I can't get enough of what other people have experienced, or even if it's misidentification.
Hmm.
That's when I listen to like a podcast, like my Bigfoot sighting, and Bigfoot encounters.
Yeah. Me
They're
too.
just, yeah, they're really good. That in fact, I actually used someone from Vic's interviews, episode
Yeah.
25, my Bigfoot sighting,
Uh-huh.
and it just was such an intriguing encounter that I didn't use it. I was She gave me approval to use it in my second film. But I can't get enough of, like you were saying, Finding Bigfoot. I wish they would come out with Finding Bigfoot town hall meeting, and
Yeah.
that's the whole show,
Shows
was
just the
people
town hall.
just talking about that, because
Hmm.
that's where you really kind of learn it from. um, I never knew Bigfoot would go on all fours until after my encounter, when it
Yeah.
looked like like the chimpanzee, the gangly thing.
Hmm.
I'm like, no, that isn't right, because if I'm going to see a Bigfoot, it's going to be Harry in the Hendersons or the Patterson film. It's going to be
Right.
bipedal. It's going to be standing there just like the T-shirt, and that's what I'm going to see. I'm not going to see it on all fours,
Hmm. Hmm.
but yet, there was not a misidentification of saying
Right.
it looked, you know, like a really
Yeah.
tall, thin NBA player, but yet shorter legs and kind of
Yeah.
squanched down and gliding right behind this tree. It was. It's pretty. I mean,
Yeah,
it's pretty fascinating.
yeah. The one of the things that I feel I feel like we would be probably in a little bit better of a position now if the BFRO, and everybody knows it is true, they scrub anything paranormal out of their reports, right?
Right.
And I really feel like that was such a disservice to the community, because that's why it kind of seems like everybody's crazy now,
Right.
because people are now starting to talk about the paranormal aspects that happened during their encounter,
Correct.
but the BFRO doesn't allow those kinds of things to be in their,
Right. So
what they put on their website and things. So it's kind of like
yeah.
so in a way it seems like all of a sudden we're all talking about phenomena, but those phenomena have been going on since way
Long
back
time.
when.
Exactly.
They were
Yeah.
just kept from us.
And that's
So
exactly what it is. So it's kind of like I have seen a few documentaries out
mhm,
that talked about aliens and Bigfoot
yeah.
and just Bigfoot.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of, I haven't seen a film like my second film of its kind yet about the lights in the woods. I
Yeah, no, I don't think I have either. Have you seen A Flash of Beauty?
I have not seen that either yet, but I want to.
It's really good, but it is very good. But they don't talk about that in that film. I think they want to make another film that kind of leans towards the paranormal aspect of this of
Right.
Sasquatch. But yeah, yours is like, I think, the first one I've seen when it started kind of making the connections that you were making in your second
Right. And
film.
again, and I
Yeah.
don't know that. That's why I brought in Ron Moorhead, Ken
Hmm.
Gerhardt, Steve Coles, David Weatherly. I call
Yeah.
them my four horsemen of the movie because
Hmm.
I like every one of their perspectives
Hmm.
that really contribute. You got Ron Moorhead, who's quantum Bigfoot,
Yeah.
and then you got Ken Gerhardt, Steve Coles, that are apers.
Oh
That's
yeah,
all it is. They're apers.
they're and they make no bones about it.
No bones about it. But I don't
Yeah.
knock any of them because we
Right.
don't know. But it's good to hear
Hmm.
all the different
Yeah.
perspectives from it. Now, uh, because like I said, because I'm a Bible believer, right?
Hmm.
I'm a Bible thumper. What do they call it? Bible thumper? Jesus freak. Um, I think it's because of when I talk about supernatural, it is talking about more spiritual. So that's my background of belief and faith.
Hmm. Hmm.
Therefore, I'm going to look at everything else as that grand possibility versus hard nosed science. I've got to see it. People said it was flesh and blood, so it's got to be flesh and blood. There's a prince that's flesh and blood, but that's it. And they can't go outside that. I can't fault, or I shouldn't say fault them, because I don't look at anybody and judge another researcher
Right.
or for the way they do things, because I don't know, and I know they don't know yet. So really, we're on even playing grounds where we
Right.
both don't know. We just have our strong opinions.
Yes.
But I'm always listening to that. And
And
like
those opinions are based upon
your experience,
our
yeah,
experience,
yeah.
right?
And the thing is, you can't take that away. Just what I was originally saying
Yeah.
about my faith, nobody can tell me differently. My faith
Hmm.
is strong that way. Nobody's going to be able to tell me differently and rip that away from me, which is
Right.
okay. I believe here. You don't. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, that you have these experiences and but you can't convince anybody. If they don't believe you, so what? You had them.
Hmm.
You know.
I cannot take
Yeah.
that away.
Nope. Not at all. It's yours forever.
Yep. Only mine.
Only yours.
Only mine. We're 2 hours.
I know, right?
I can't even believe it. Like, it went like that.
I
It was
told you
great.
I told you I was Edith Bunker.
I love
I would
it.
just keep a
I love
ramble on.
Edith. Could you
Yeah.
imagine if that show was on TV right now? Oh
No,
boy.
no. Just like Last Man Standing.
Yeah.
If you think about it, Last Man Standing was almost All in the Family.
Yeah. I mean,
just
like very,
updated.
very, very controversial. Very,
Yep.
very, yeah. I can't
Yeah,
even, I can't see that on TV now,
I
but
know. But we're all conditioned to not
yeah,
think that way
yeah.
anymore. Just got to
Well,
remain positive and strong. And
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
We all need to be positive and there's a lot of crazy things in our world that are just very uncertain in these times, and we all need to just again, I'm all about love and light and wishing people positivity, talking about being positive, showing positive thing. Like, it's very important for me to just make sure that I try to think positively about life and about my research and about just the world in general. I'm trying really hard. I
Just
want to,
remember, yeah, just
I,
remember to help send off the show. Even just remember, we have to go through a little
yeah,
darkness to get to the light.
hmm, yeah,
So while these are trying times,
yeah,
we will get through it. We will prosper. We will be happy.
we will.
Everyone says, Jay, keep drinking that positive Kool-Aid, because you know
Yeah.
what? I can get down like the rest of other human beings do and
And
feel
we all
certain ways,
do. Yeah.
but we got to remain positive.
Yeah. And it's how we pick ourselves up, we dust
Yep.
ourselves off, and we move forward. We just keep going. We
Keep
just keep
going.
going. We just keep going.
Just keep
Yeah.
on swimming. Just keep on swimming.
That's right. That's right. So, everybody, I want you guys to make sure that you go and check out Jay's documentaries. Both of them are on Amazon Prime. It's Finding Jay. The second one is Beyond the Kettle, Finding Jay 2, the number 2. You guys will enjoy it very much. You're going to love the journey. He takes you on his personal journey, and you're kind of like, it's interesting the way he does it and how he shot everything, is because it's almost like you're like a mouse in the pocket, in his pocket. Like, you're kind of, because it's interesting that way. I love that. I love documentaries and films that are shot that way, because you just feel like you're along for the ride. And it's an amazing film. Both of them are amazing films.
Wow,
Thank you, thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you for those nice words on it. Like I said,
Yeah.
I have a lot of people that have kind of followed my journey of creating both films and
Hmm.
then watching it. And when you get to know people, um, friends or good acquaintances, on
Hmm.
Facebook or social media, and it's out, they love it, and that's great, and I thank them. But it's like I want to know what the rest of the
Yeah,
viewers think of it, that I don't know if I can reach them the way you just explained. So I
yeah.
appreciate that, because those are my intentions of
And that's
the
the
way I
message
film.
that came clearly through.
Well,
Thank you.
good. All right, you got it. See?
It did.
All right.
Yeah.
Boom, you got it.
So I'm going to put you backstage. I'm going to
Okay.
say good night to my peeps. Can you hang out for a few minutes and wait for me?
I sure can.
Okay, awesome. All
Thank you
right.
so much for having me on.
Of course. Of course. I hope to have you back again, especially if there's a part 3.
That's what my wife said. Somebody asked that already, and they said, "When's part 3 coming out?" And she looked at me
She
and
was
she
like,
said,
"Oh
"Not you
no."
can't even think about another one for at least 12 months." And I go, "That's a year." But no, you don't understand what they went through while
Yeah.
dad worked and was here, and you get frustrated and
Yeah.
everything. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, on that note,
Yeah.
we'll
Thank
see.
you.
We'll see. But I'll be back on.
Yeah. All right. Stay backstage. I'll be
I
right
will.
back.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
Wasn't that amazing, everybody? That was so much fun. I enjoyed that conversation so much. I love like minded people, I love truth seekers. And you guys know that's what we're all about here on this channel. I want to thank you guys. I'm sorry, I was just really focusing on my interview with Jay, and I didn't get a chance to say hi to all the other people that popped into the chat a little bit later. Dina, Ruger Ridge. Ruger, I got your email. We're going to set something up. Amber, we got to get together. We want to get that show together. So I'm going to reply to your email, Ruger, and we'll get that thing set up. Thank you. And I love y'all so much for being here. Go and watch Jay's documentaries. You're going to love them. And again, it's his journey that he takes you on. And he's a truth seeker. He's hunting the truth, and you will enjoy it. And I will see you guys Monday night. Matt and I are doing our Dive into the Depths show on Monday night, 9:00. That show is happening. Thanks everybody for being here, and take care and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Light, love, and blessings to everybody. All right. See you Monday night.